Hello and welcome to Leviathan News. Today is Friday, July 28th, and we're going to talk a lot about stablecoins today because we like the stablecoins.
Yeah.
We'll start with the big one, which is that MakerDAO has approved a proposal to increase the DSR yield up to 8% to spur growth for their decentralized stablecoins. So they've seen a large downturn in supply, just like everybody else in the stablecoin industry over the last several months, stemming from last year after the Luna collapse. And so they have a new proposal that would introduce something called the enhanced DAI savings rate, which temporarily increases the interest rate DAI holders can earn up to 8%. And it's like a tiered process. So essentially, the first money that comes in gets paid 8%, and then as more money comes in, then they get paid lower and lower and lower. So Rune said that we have not managed to generate sustainable growth in new demand for and capital inflows yet. The EDSR helps fix this by ensuring that DAI holders that are pioneering the adoption of the DSR get a more fair amount of value from the increased returns generated by the protocol. And this is in line with the fact that 54% of all DAI revenue now comes from treasuries, which are being managed off-chain and earning quite a bit of interest.
Quite a bit, but under the 8% mark. So I'm guessing their treasury is just funding the surplus.
Probably. So they are earning quite a bit on the treasury income. That's become one of their largest source for income over the past year, and now they're trying to increase that over time. I saw some interesting comments actually that here is Jay Powell yesterday who raised rates, which I think he said could be for the last time. We've hit this like terminal rate of 5.5%, and MakerDAO's business model is purely predicated on treasuries rising up. And for everything that I know, they're like a small drop in the pond. They're only like $4.6 billion, but the stablecoin industry writ large is like sapping off the benefits of these interest rate increases. So when they sit at 5.5%, that's a huge amount of money that's being passed back to these stablecoin issuers in the form of interest income. And that may or may not be passed back to the users, like in the case of like Tether or USDC. MakerDAO does, obviously, but this is really like a boon for the stablecoin industry. And I wonder if the Fed and Congress takes a look at this and tries to stamp it down a little bit in the future.
Yeah, it's a good point. I can't really comment on what the Fed would do, but I do think that for like DeFi more broadly, like we've been needing this. We've been needing all these kind of like off-chain yields to make their way on-chain, because at the moment there's literally no reason for people to be putting their money on-chain when you can like keep your money in a bank, and unless you're like helping Lazarus Group, you're probably going to be pretty safe there.
Not even a bank. I mean, you can just go buy like 30-day treasuries and earn 5.5%.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no appeal for DeFi where you can get hacked, rugged, attacked, whatever.
Exactly.
But 8%, 8% talks.
Yeah, and so it's a tiered process where as more and more TVL comes in, it'll go lower and lower and lower. But the first funds that come in will get that 8%, which is a very nice offering.
Yeah, and they will get this. I'm sorry, please. They will get this 8% even after other people come and like dilute them.
After they what?
Like you said that like once more and more people come, this yield will a bit. No.
Oh yeah, so like it cut, like as the money comes in, then after a certain point it goes down to the 3.3% again. So it's really incentive to get funds to come and sit in the DSR and increase their TVL. And this will really only be temporary. It's more of like a marketing ploy to spur money to come back in. And they're hoping to add another $1 billion or $2 billion to TVL using this process.
All right. I'm just going to say, let's imagine a bunch of LSTs get built off of this. And instead of LSDFi, we see DiFi.
DiFi. Well,
sounds like some kind of a summer, like a special offer for the summer.
Yeah. Well, I would love to see interest rates come back up in the crypto lending markets, up from the gutter where they were for years and years. I want to go back to 2020 when they were like at 15% for 15 to 20% for like almost a year.
Come on,
After
Ponzi
these
engineers.
past few years, I'm not so sure it's good.
Yeah. Well, like high interest on crypto lending markets just means that there's high demand for stable coins, and people are probably using that for leverage or farming or something. And so that's the kind of environment we want to get back to, because right now it's tepid. The stablecoin market cap keeps going down and down and down. And as more like money gets sucked out of the system and into these interest rate opportunities.
Let's see. Let's definitely think that all kinds of stuff can spur like a new like stablecoin spring in a way. Like for me, it's mostly use cases. By the way, like I want options, like I want possibilities on how to actually use stablecoins. I think that's the key.
Yeah. So we had some other stablecoin news that was quietly announced on this week. In the Frax Shack, this is something that I reported on Flywheel, is that Sam Kazemian, Frax founder, started to leak details about the upcoming Frax V3 launch. Notably, before we get into the details, he said that this is going to be out within 30 days, which I thought was interesting. So
exciting.
So in my story, which I covered, just some random anon in chat was like, hey, asking about like the CRV USD situation and about how like that's set up and about how it's unique. And Sam comes back and says that like we're going to unveil Frax V3 soon, and he thinks that Frax V3 and Curve USD will be the main show in town after that. There's not a lot of details in there. A lot of this is going to be kind of cryptic because Sam is kind of like not saying things, but not clearly saying things. So, yeah. So Frax V3 had been a part of the roadmap of Frax since March. The first comment that I could see Sam making about this was back then. This was after the Silicon Valley Bank crisis and after the USDC depeg, which had caused both USDC and Frax and DAI to trade down to like 92 or 93 cents during the crisis. And I think that was a wake-up call for the team that diversification of assets is needed, and more so a diversification away from so-called fiat coins into other sources.
So obviously we're in like speculative territory when we're talking about this, but is your impression that the thought is to kind of phase out Frax current stablecoin and start migrating liquidity towards this like new stablecoin?
Honestly, I have no idea. We can go through that, right? So like another anon LZ asked Sam, like, how can it not rely on fiat coins? And Sam says, like, does CRV USD rely on fiat coins? And I mean, it partially does, right? They have the peg keepers who are maintaining the peg, but he goes on to say that like Frax V3 is going to allow the peg to be kept without having to rebalance the curve pools or sell collateral. So it's a new mechanism that doesn't exist in DeFi. So he goes on to say that it's a brand new mechanism. They had to code it from scratch. Nobody else is using this so far, and but then there's like, you would think that okay, they're going to use some sort of crypto collateral, but then later another anon ACT asks Sam, like, is T-bill yield going to flow into VFX and VLCVX holders? And Sam said essentially yes, which is like extremely cryptic, right? Because to get T-bill yield, you need to have like agreements set up with whomever's providing your like base stable coins, right? Like in Frax's case, it's like either Paxos or Circle or whomever's backing, right? Like they would have to come to a partnership agreement that, say, like Circle has, where part of that interest income is being passed back, somewhere between like 1% and 3%, I would guess, at these rates. But that would add a ton of extra yield to the protocol. I think there's around $600 to $700 million worth of collateral in Frax at the moment, and so that would bring in several extra $1 million, even tens of millions of dollars extra as interest income that would go straight to the VEFX lockers. But additionally, he says that there's going to be some bribing mechanisms with Frax v3 where part of the yield is used to auto incentivize deep liquidity. And yeah, so it's all very cryptic, like a lot of like high level stuff, which without knowing the core details is going to be a little bit difficult to understand. But based on what Sam says about the timeline, this should all be out within 30 days. So we should know by the end of August, hopefully.
I feel like it's one of those things that you kind of have to test and prod before people gain an appreciation or understanding of what's going on here. So it's exciting that we'll get the tail end of DeFi summer, Frax summer.
Yeah, I don't think it's. The thing is like I don't think it's a. I think it's a collateral change and a mechanism design change. So I don't think it's just a pure like, oh hey, we're putting out a new contract sort of thing. I also think there's some stuff on the back end where they're like trying to diversify the collateral away from USDC. So that like if there is another like shock, right, that you would have like some backups, right, in case anything happened.
Is all this collateral still going to be on chain, or we don't know that?
Yeah, no, everything's going to be fully on chain. Yeah, I mean that's something that Frax is committed to, is that all of their like every single dollar or token should be visible at all times.
I thought I saw something about Frax USD, which was representing off-chain, like money held in like a Fed Master account or T-bills or something.
I mean, it could be that. Honestly, I don't know about the Fed Master account because that's like a long-term thing. But the Frax USD as a swap for USDC as like the collateral backing might even work. Yeah.
Got it. Well, we're on the subject. Can we get back into DebateCast? And
Sure.
I saw that the Llama Risk team released a report on Frax, and it was mostly favorable with this regarding SFrax ETH, and it kind of piggybacked off a Prisma Finance report, but it did like knock off some points for like centralization risk, counterparty risks, and Oracle risks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, did you read through that? What's your response to that?
Well, I'm looking at the tweet now, and they actually like retweeted the Prisma Risk report. And so, we talked about the Prisma Risk report last week when it came out. I think it's probably the most in-depth and fair assessment of stake Frax ETH that we've seen so far, because they not only take a look at the like the backing, they're also looking at security, they're looking at the legal aspects. It's extremely in-depth and worth the read. And the Llama Risk team pretty much comes to the same conclusions as the Prisma Risk team, that the liquidity is unmatched based on how Frax ETH was designed. The volatility is better than any other the LSD out there, and the contracts themselves are good, but it has several critical dependencies. Namely, the core team runs all the validators at the moment using a multi-sig, and there's no Frax ETH Oracle yet for Chainlink. So those two things are like critical issues that they raise, and it's also the same issues that Prisma Risk raises at the end. But there's two solutions that are coming for that in this quarter. Frax Gov will be launched, which will completely sever any control by the multisig to have unilateral control. And then additionally, the launch of Frax ETH v2 will completely change how the staking dynamics works. It essentially moves it away from a staking system to a isolated lending market, much like Aave.
Yeah. So if I wanted to play devil's advocate, I'd say, well, why are you launching Frax v3 when you have these other kind of crucial centralization Frax Gov projects in the pipeline? Why not get those out, get it decentralized, and then move to v3? Why does v3 take precedence here?
So I think v3 deals with the stablecoin, right? Like you're talking about like a different part of the vertical, which is on the staked side. I believe that the Frax v3 has been something that's been worked on in the background since what was it, March, when the Silicon Valley Bank issue happened, and like the team is very capable. Like there's 8 guys that work there, and they're extremely talented. So, they all have their different projects that they're working on.
I also saw something mentioning an Oracle-less design. Right, sir?
For which part?
For Fox.
I don't know about that, but yeah, at the moment, those are the core things that are coming. I would say that like the Frax Gov is the most important thing because it'll essentially like remove the ability of the multi-sig to act unilaterally, puts in like time lock controls, and allows the token holders to essentially like veto anything that the multi-sig wants to do on a daily basis. So,
by the way, are they also? Do you have any idea if they're gonna like maintain some kind of ability, like something like an emergency DAO? For example, what we saw back in the day with Curve when the whole Mochi stuff happened.
Yeah, so I've got a really good article that I wrote on Flywheel about this that goes into the different like how FraxGov is essentially being set up, and like they're dividing it into 2 parts. Let me just pull this up. They are taking the multi-sig. Let me get rid of this and pull. Okay, so they're getting rid of the multi-sig and they're adding in 2 contracts. The first is the Frax Governor Alpha, and then the second is Frax Governor Omega. And so Frax Governor Alpha is a high quorum contract. So this is like anything that is critical to the functioning of the protocol as a whole has to go through Alpha. And so that has like a more than 50% quorum that's needed. It has like high controls. It has to be voted on only by the VEFXS holders, and this can make any changes to the protocol. Like any parameter change to the protocol can be done through Alpha, but it has a super high quorum. It's got a long wait time, but it does have an emergency like switch. Like if you get a 51% quorum, the transaction can be executed. So if there is some emergency that needs to take place, then that can be done through the Alpha. The day-to-day stuff about like adjusting the AMOs or moving liquidity around, doing rebalances would happen through Frax Governor Omega. And so that's a limited contract, which has low quorum. I believe it's only like 5% or 4%. And anybody can call this, but it also has like a veto principle as well too. So anybody can, if they get enough quorum, like more than, I'd have to go check, but like it has a low threshold for getting vetoed. So if there is any sort of transaction which is deemed to be like malicious or something through the Omega contract, then anybody can propose to veto it, and it immediately gets aborted. And then all this is connected to a Gnosis safe where everything is operated out of. Essentially, it's it has like a 3 of 5 threshold, and either the Omega or the Alpha always has to be a part of those votes. So, yeah, it's a really interesting system. I think they've done a really good job of setting this up.
I think what we should set up is an interview with the Frax guys like Ace.
Yeah, I think we can have Drake on, who was instrumental in designing this.
Yeah, can be great.
Yeah, but that's enough Frax stuff. If you want to hear more, come over to Flywheel. We like talk about this like every single day, right? So we also had a policy paper that we reported yesterday, but it was put out by Paradigm, and it talks about like the future of stablecoin payments. And Paradigm says that dollar stablecoins are like less risky than other forms of money, and it also fosters growth and competitiveness, and they want to encourage stablecoin innovation. And so it's an interesting paper because they're talking about how like stablecoins are not money market funds and they're less risky. I mean, all this is debate. I mean, this is where the political aspect of stablecoins comes in. But it's a good read. I think it's very pro industry.
Yeah, it's really interesting timing because, of course, there's been a bunch of drama within Washington, D.C. the past few days as multiple stablecoin bills tried to advance out of committee. And it seems as if it became a major flashpoint for some partisan bickering there. But one has to assume that this is just bolstering the case that people who are trying to get stablecoin legislation through can point to this paper.
Yeah, didn't the bill make it out of committee yesterday?
I think it did, but I think it got shut down because I believe it was like a few of the kind of older wing of the Democratic Party were complaining that it was too favorable to the crypto industry, and they really wanted to ensure that self-hosting was.
I saw this morning, right? So the U.S. House Financial Services Committee passes the stablecoin legislation after what they call some fireworks. So there was a big, like, I have to share the thread which had all the drama, but I'm just pulling this up. So this was actually this morning, right? So Patrick McHenry passed the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act with bipartisan support. And he said that the committee members, unlike the White House, understood the urgency and importance of providing clarity for payment stablecoins. And so it's passed. So, I mean, it's essentially out of committee now.
Out of committee, but then obviously has to hit the main floor, and Senate, I believe, just took a big recess for the past month, for the next upcoming month. So I don't think there's going to be a lot happening on this front, but it's still nice to see that there's some semblance of progress.
Yeah, it wouldn't have a vote. It wouldn't have like an actual vote until September when there's larger bills that it can be kind of pushed in with, wrapped up with. We also had the launch of WorldCoin this week. We talked about WorldCoin, I believe, on Monday when it was launched on Binance. But WorldCoin has generated quite a lot of feedback. So I know, like, immediately after the launch, the UK privacy regulator said that they're going to look into WorldCoin. The French privacy watchdog also said they're looking into WorldCoin based on the legality of them collecting biometric data, which they seem questionable. But on chain, it's been a little bit different story. So Optimism has surpassed Arbitrum in terms of daily transactions, fully fueled by the WorldCoin hype.
Yeah, it's fueled by the WorldCoin hype.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's why. I didn't know. I didn't get how it happens. I mean, I didn't understand how it happened. Okay, this makes sense.
So this is the first time that Optimism transactions, like the number of daily transactions on Optimism, has surpassed Arbitrum.
Yeah, I saw that graph online and I was surprised. But now when you say it's connected to the WorldCoin like Rush, okay, it makes a bit more sense to me because honestly, I didn't understand how this can, like, not now, like maybe one day. I'm not saying that I know, but it was weird to me. But to be honest, I'm more Arbitrum oriented anyway. But now that you say that it's related to the WorldCoin Rush, then I'm not sure how organic it really is.
Yeah. So we can see in this chart down here. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Here we go. So the number of transactions surpassed, and this is the first time since January that transactions on Optimism have passed Arbitrum.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you can't really see it quite in the graph the way this is for those of you watching it.
Let me push it up here.
There we go. Yeah. So to me, like the Optimism thing and the WorldCoin, whatever, like it might just be like a flash in the pan. But if you notice, like the Arbitrum transactions, that has been a smooth trend line down. So even if the WorldCoin thing hadn't come along within a few months, we might have seen this flipping anyway.
True, yeah. True. But who knows? Like I wouldn't count Arbitrum out of this race just yet, let's say. I definitely think that, we have like the months of the airdrop here and the hype and all kind of on Arbitrum as well. Yet I do, I don't know, at least most of the builders I'm in contact with, they're building on, like their natural choice is Arbitrum. The way I'm listening, like from what I'm being told, definitely not talking to all of them.
Leviathan News is also live on Arbitrum.
Yes, we are. And we also had Benjamin on yesterday, who was talking about this more, about some of the support that he's got from Arbitrum for Keto. So that's an interesting.
And we just had Nick Westlake like last week or something like that. which spoke about the Arbitrum grants, which also it can also bootstrap some activity back over there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And so WorldCoin, obviously, like it's gotten a lot of feedback. There was a really nice post that Ivan from Lobsters wrote. Let me pull this one up. Covers a lot. You know, we covered a lot of the same stuff, but if you go to Crab Notes inside of, let me just pull this up. Here. I'll share this, but essentially Ivan goes into like a really nice discussion of WorldCoin. Some of the issues that he brings up is that the liquid supply was just 1%, while the investors and teams are like 25%. So obviously there's going to be more WorldCoin that's distributed to people for scanning eyeballs, but right now the supply is very lopsided, especially like when the market makers are receiving like 3 to 4 times more of the circulating supply than what has been airdropped.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just be careful out there.
Wow. I'm personally, I'm not touching it. We've discussed it already, but
yeah,
I don't know. Too weird for me.
Yeah, very weird. And you know, it also comes out of SBF's altruistic investment splurge that he had.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. I think I do, but go ahead.
Oh, right. I'm pretty sure SBF invested into WorldCoin, right?
Okay.
Didn't he?
Yeah, I saw his name on the list. So how's that work?
Yeah?
Does he still get to keep his investment in there?
No, he'll get bought out. It'll go back.
I saw another thing about SBF, which kind of was, I don't know, like you should put the SBF outside of the jail, apparently, on that picture, because I saw that some of the charges yesterday were dropped.
Yeah, it's temporary. So against, let me pull that up. So SBF dropped the campaign finance charges against him because of some issues with the extradition request. So it's important to note that Sam is in the United States on an agreement that he signed, or that the DOJ signed with the Bahamian government, so that they could potentially prosecute him for crimes. And so the DOJ, when they make those extradition requests, they're bound by that request that they essentially sign with the Bahamian government. Once the initial charges are pushed through and they're no longer bound by that agreement, then they can refile those campaign finance charges.
Okay, so all the people who are like talking about how this represents corruption at the highest level, and like the parties protecting their own, like that's premature.
Yeah, very premature.
Let's see. I can't say I'm convinced yet. It still seems corrupt to me, but hopefully you're right. I definitely hope I'm wrong on this one.
I think it's too early to make any decisions about SPF. We have to see. I'm sure he's going to go to prison for a long time, and that he's definitely not going to walk free. He lost way too much money. He's probably going to go to jail for 15 to 20 years, maybe longer. We'll see. But he doesn't have any friends anymore. I mean, who's going to step up to help him?
Well, I don't know. I don't know him. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Let's get that one girl who was talking with him on the podcast to talk about it. Who remember there's a journalist or something who visited him after.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting thing. Well, speaking of Alameda and SBF, we had Parrot Protocol, which we reported earlier in the week. It's probably going to rage quit after this vote, and they are going to walk away with $47.5 million.
This
is not a rage quit. That's a rug pull, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, whatever you want to call it.
That's the better way. The reason for the rug pull is they're rage quitting, but they're rage quitting with a treasury of almost $50 million. And this is the kind of stuff that honestly makes our industry, it makes us look like a joke. Honestly, it delays our real market penetration, because when people see stuff like that and they read about it in on the different media outlets, like, come on, crypto seems like a scam. Like this side of crypto, of course, that I definitely don't think that what we cover here are scams. I think we cover some of the most amazing and brilliant innovations that's going to change the world for like decades and centuries to come. But we also so much of that stuff. I don't know. What a joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate, very unfortunate. So a lot of
Right.
people.
It's also something that I think that, that like if there's something that the authorities should take care of and go after, it's stuff like that. Like not after Alexei Pertsev, who writes code. You know what I mean? These people actually steal someone's money, so go after them. Like that's why I think that people, myself, on a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure that many others as well, there's this some kind of a feeling of corruption.
It's defrauding investors, right? Like literally, the investors gave money and they took it and ran to the beach. That's what the SEC is supposed to be protecting.
Yeah. This is where we need Rax to tell us that everything's a scam, and we need to have put everybody in jail and have stronger regulations around all this.
Only those who deserve it.
I mean, he's right. I mean, like he's right about that. There's a lot of
this kind of stuff, exactly, for sure. But regulation should. Regulation is such a powerful instrument, but you should use powerful instruments where you should use them. You shouldn't use them where you shouldn't. And the question then becomes, who's the one that has the authority to actually use these tools and what they go after stuff like that. For example, by the way, it's the same with the Koenig team when they said that if the hacker will return the money, then they won't press charges and they won't go after him. It shouldn't be up to Koenig whether the authorities go after the exploiter, in my opinion. There's an exploiter. He did something illegal. He stole money. The authorities should go after him. It's criminal activity. What does it matter if Koenig wants it to happen or not? You know what I mean? This is a crime. Where's the legal system?
Yeah, but it's really hard to do that. Like, first you have to find the person. You have to.
I'm not saying it's easy.
I think it's a very difficult process to recover funds like that. You have to find the person first. You have to figure out what jurisdiction they're in. Hopefully they haven't left their home jurisdiction. You then have to work with authorities across multiple jurisdictions probably to arrest that person, and then you have a long drawn out court case to convict them of fraud. It's not an easy process, especially if a person is living in somewhere where the authorities are not willing to work with the United States or somebody else who is
but to piggyback off DeFi Advisor's point, that's what the government is, by we the people, is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be able to collectivize these resources and do the things that we can't do as individual auditors and tinfoil hat wearer Pepe icons on Twitter.
And when I'm actually, and again, my point is when they want to go after Tornado Cash, they find Alexei Pertsev quickly. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
I'm not saying that for sure that they can do it or solve it, but it shouldn't be up to Koenig or any other protocol or side. When there's criminal activity, I think that we as a society, we expect authorities to at least try and do something. I'm not saying that they will only do it. I'm saying that a lot of the frustration that many people have is about where the efforts go. Do you actually regulate what we want you to regulate, or do you regulate what the person of interest tell you to regulate? And I think that's the main discussions between these two sides of the way different groups see this equation of regulation.
Or what if they went after Koenig instead of going after the hacker, right? That's
what did Koenig do wrong? Why should they go after Koenig? Koenig made if they can prove
it's a
Koenig made it. No,
because they didn't. But hypothetically, they could be like, oh well, Koenig was selling unregistered securities, so we're going to attack Koenig for defrauding their investors.
But I don't think it's about security. I think that if they say that Koenig was a part of it, that Koenig coordinated this whole hack behind the scenes, and if they can prove that, then okay, then I can see what's the illegal activity. But what's illegal about CNC being dropped, and people saying, okay, this is our token, this is what we're going to try to do. No one promised, no one guaranteed that the money we put in CNC is going to go up or down, or it's 100% safe. I think that people know the risks. But if someone comes and does something malicious, aren't we as a society supposed to try and prevent that? Because otherwise the lesson is that you should try and do more and more malicious things, and that's what actually this cycle can perpetuate itself.
Well, look, I mean, when you're talking, okay, so I think from like a risk return basis, if an attacker takes like $3 million and returns all but $300,000 of it, that's a really easy outcome, because like to pay for lawyers, to pay for investigators, over several years, right? It's going to cost way more than $300,000. So if the funds can just be returned like that, you can fill the hole with revenues later on. And just be done with it. Like when you get into the hundreds of millions, I think it's a little bit different, but the issue is still the same. It's just much easier to not include the authorities and just get it done and get all the money back.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the authorities should participate in it, whether the involved parties want to or not. I'm saying that criminal activity should concern them either way. I agree with you on the practical level that you're right, and that's what actually goes on. But I don't think it's the way we should aspire to be. We should aspire to be like a better society.
Yeah, so just to give an update on Conic, they have dropped from a high of $156 million in TVL down to $49 million in TVL, which is to be expected, right? I mean, the contracts are being audited. They're not working right now. And they actually just put up a vote to disable CNC emissions for OmniPools. So there's almost like no incentive to keep funds there for the moment until they re-audit the contracts and launch again. But, it's unfortunate. And, this looked like a new and promising project, and hopefully they're able to get it back on their feet.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We also had a vote that was passed by Alchemix to essentially restore the backing for ALUSD on Optimism and Arbitrum, and then Optimism AL ETH in response to everything that was taking place on multi-chain. So this has essentially gone up to vote. It's passed, and so they're going to withdraw $507,000 of ALUSD and 382 AL ETH from the mainnet AMO elixirs and bridge it to Optimism via Connects. And then they're going to restore all the liquidity in here for everyone. And so multi-chain was the bridging solution for all AL assets on Arbitrum, Optimism, and Phantom for AL ETH, AL USD, and GALCX. And the death of multi-chain clearly impacted Alchemix. And
wow.
Yeah. So they continue to write that these were canonical assets on the chain. And so it was quite a serious event. So when the multi-chain was exploited, the DAO disabled the ability for multi-chain assets to mint canonical assets. However, someone with key access at multi-chain was able to steal the funds from the multi-chain contract held on mainnet. Because of this, many of the assets on Arbitrum, Optimism, Phantom are no longer able to bridge back to mainnet and are therefore no longer backed. And so this proposal is specifically just focusing on Arbitrum and Optimism. It's going to provide backing for those assets and ensure that they can come back to Ethereum.
Well, I wish them a lot of luck. I actually like Scoopy.
Yeah, let's get Scoopy on the show.
So multi-chain holds $2 million of ALUSD on mainnet. These funds are currently considered out of multi-chain's control and effectively lost, potentially in circulation. Multi-chain holds 901 AL ETH on mainnet. And these funds are moved to an EOA and are considered effectively lost. And then they also have close to 6,000 GLACX. And these are out of control of multi-chain, but they're effectively lost and potentially in circulation. Right. So wow. The data shows that the hit on Optimism for ALUSD is $1.4 million. On Arbitrum, it's $364,000, and on multi-AL ETH on Optimism, it's 882 AL ETH.
This multi-chain stuff is very disappointing.
Yeah. So they're going to be used a lot of their farmed assets that they have, namely a bunch of CRV, Frax shares, CVX, Balancer. They're going to sell all this and then reback those assets.
We should definitely try to get Scoopy on and get his perspective on like how this affected them and how do you see themselves moving on.
Yeah, we'll get Scoopy up for next week.
This multi-chain stuff has affected so many protocols, huh? Incredible.
Wow. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, sad news, but they're moving on and they're going to be repegging everything. We had the launch of Shibarium's beta bridge. So Shiba is launching an L2 named Shibarium, and they've got their beta up. It's gone live for public testing. You can go out, give it a test.
Yeah, this directly rebuts what DeFi Advisor was just said, that we only bring high quality DeFi news here.
No, I think it is. I mean, like the Shiba team has they're building stuff over there.
Because of the name, it's a funny name, Shibarium, or however we say that.
Yeah, and then the Llama Nodes Premium channel is live. So Llama Nodes launched an RBC for institutions called Llama Nodes Premium, and so this is live. You can go check it out on their website and sign up and start using it for your dApps and other Web3 needs.
So this is for institutions? Like, I didn't know that Llama was building a product for institutions. That's actually quite exciting.
It's very exciting. Garrett, did we have? I mean, we had Windmoon on a little while back. I know we've mentioned Llama Nodes before in chat, but now it's fully launched.
It's actually cool, and I'm wondering, like, if it's happening, I'm wondering what's happening behind the scenes. If they have any kind of connection with the institutions that are already anticipating it. Quite interesting to know.
So that's pretty cool.
Try to talk to we had the Llama Nodes guy a while back, right?
Yeah, we had them all on, and so we had the Llama Nodes guys on, and then we had Windmoon. So that was back in. Let me just check. Llama Nodes, because we've reported on this twice. So back in May, on May 9th, we had the Llama Nodes team first talk about the Llama Nodes and the upcoming MEV protected RPC. And then on May 2nd, we first reported about it.
Yeah, maybe we should try and talk to them again.
Yeah, they're happy, always welcome to come back. So this is going to wrap it up for today. Hope you guys like the stream, and we will be back on Monday.
Yes. Hopefully some great guests next week, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. Well, cool.
Absolutely.
Well, Garrett, DeFi Advisor, was great seeing both of you, and I hope you guys have a good weekend. And all of our listeners out there as well, too, have a good weekend as well.
Amen. Goodbye, folks. Shabbat shalom.